5 years had passed since humanity revealed itself to the galaxy, and the transformation was beyond anything anyone could have imagined.
Empress In Young, chosen successor to the late Emperor Daeho,
stood on the observation deck of the new Galactic Assembly Station, watching ships from 100 different species dock peacefully together. The station itself was a marvel, built using human dimensional technology, but designed by representatives from every member species. It existed partially in normal space and partially in subspace, allowing it to serve as a neutral meeting ground that no single power could threaten or control. "The morning reports, Your Majesty," said Chancellor Kyung-Soo, approaching with a datapad. Unlike the old emperor who had ruled from necessity, In Young insisted on democratic input for all major decisions. The title was mostly ceremonial. She was more like a coordinator than a dictator. "The Corvin delegation has finished their presentation on the mining rights dispute," Kyung-Soo continued. "Both sides have agreed to human mediation. The Aquatic Federation's expansion into the nebula sectors has been approved by all neighboring species, and the former Vorthak territories have completed their transition to the new Confederation model." In Young nodded with satisfaction. The new Galactic Assembly was nothing like the old Council. Instead of a few major powers making decisions for everyone else, every species had representation based on their population and contribution to galactic society. More importantly, humans maintained absolute veto power over any decision that might threaten galactic security. It wasn't a perfect system. Some species complained about human oversight, but it was working. For the first time in recorded history, the galaxy was truly at peace. "What about the Keleth situation?" In Young asked. Kyung-Soo's expression grew serious. "High Inquisitor Sang-Woo reports that the final nest was destroyed yesterday. The ethereal collective has been completely cleansed of Keleth influence, and their crystal networks are showing normal function for the first time in millennia. The hunt for the Keleth had taken 5 years of careful work. These ancient parasites had hidden themselves throughout galactic civilization, existing in parallel dimensions while manipulating events through their hosts. But human void sight could see them clearly, and human void weapons could destroy them permanently." "How many total?" In Young asked. 2,347 individual Keleth entities," Kyung-Soo replied, "plus 17 major nest complexes hidden in subspace. All confirmed destroyed. It was a staggering number. For millions of years, thousands of these parasites had been feeding on galactic civilization, draining creativity and potential from entire species. Their removal was already showing dramatic effects. The Saurian Republic has requested permission to establish 3 new research colonies," Kyung-Soo added. "They've apparently rediscovered their talent for theoretical physics. The ethereal collective wants to experiment with new crystal formations, something they haven't attempted in 10,000 years. This was the most encouraging sign. Species that had been stagnant for millennia were beginning to grow and change again. Art, science, philosophy, all were experiencing renaissance as civilizations rediscovered their capacity for innovation. High Inquisitor Sang-Woo materialized on the observation deck, his form shifting from subspace visibility to normal as he deactivated his dimensional cloak. He was one of the void-touched humans, those whose exposure to nebula energies had given them abilities the Keleth feared. "Empress, we've completed the cleansing of the ethereal homeworld," he reported. "The last hidden Keleth was destroyed this morning. The species is free for the first time since their prehistoric era. Any complications? Some of the older ethereals are having difficulty adjusting to life without Keleth influence," Sang-Woo admitted. "They've lived so long under mental control that independent thought is actually painful for them. Dr. Haewon's therapy programs are helping, but it will take time." Researcher Haewon had developed techniques for helping species recover from Keleth damage. The process was slow and sometimes difficult, but the results were remarkable. Entire civilizations were remembering who they used to be before the parasites took hold. "What about the resistant species?" In Young asked. Sang-Woo's expression darkened. "The Saurian military faction is still fighting the transition. They've declared themselves the Free Saurian Republic and are trying to establish a government in exile. Our intelligence suggests they may be harboring surviving Keleth entities. This was the galaxy's remaining problem. While most species had welcomed liberation from Keleth influence, some had been so thoroughly controlled that they couldn't survive without their parasites. These groups saw human intervention as an invasion rather than a rescue. Recommendations? Continued monitoring and gradual pressure, Sang Woo replied. Forcible intervention would only prove their propaganda correct. Better to let them see how well the liberated territories prosper. It was a wise approach. In the 5 years since the revelation, those species that had embraced freedom from Kaleth influence had experienced unprecedented growth and prosperity. Their example was more persuasive than any military action could be. A soft chime indicated an incoming priority message. Chancellor Kyung-soo activated the holographic display, revealing Explorer Captain Taehoon's face. He was broadcasting from somewhere beyond the galaxy's edge, his ship silhouetted against the cosmic void. "Empress, we've made contact with the Andromeda expedition," he reported. "The news is both good and disturbing. The Andromeda expedition was humanity's most ambitious project, a fleet of ships sent to the neighboring galaxy to search for other civilizations that might need protection from parasitic influences." "What did you find?" In-young asked. 3 major galactic civilizations all showing signs of Kaleth infestation, Taehoon replied. "But there's more. We've detected evidence of at least 6 other parasitic species, each one as dangerous as the Kaleth in different ways. The universe is full of these cosmic predators, Empress. Our galaxy isn't unique, it's just one of many hunting grounds." The implications were staggering. If other galaxies were facing similar threats, humanity's responsibility was far greater than anyone had imagined. "What about resistance?" Kyung-soo asked. "Limited," Taehoon admitted. "Most species in Andromeda have been under parasitic influence for so long that they've forgotten what freedom looks like. But we did find one group, a species called the Zephyrians, who have been fighting their own version of Kaleth for centuries. They're eager for alliance and mutual support." In-young considered this news carefully. Humanity had just finished liberating their own galaxy, and now they were learning that the fight was far from over. "Captain, establish formal contact with the Zephyrians and offer them whatever support they need. Begin detailed surveys of the parasitic species you've identified. But maintain strict quarantine protocols. We can't risk introducing new threats to our cleaned galaxy." "Understood, Empress. There's one more thing. The Zephyrians have detected similar parasitic activity in several other nearby galaxies. They believe this is a universe-wide problem." After the transmission ended, In-young stood quietly for several minutes, contemplating the enormous responsibility that had fallen to humanity. They had gone from exiles to galactic guardians in less than a century. Now it seemed they might need to become cosmic guardians as well. "Your Majesty?" Kyung-soo asked softly. "Assemble the assembly for an emergency session," In-young decided. "All member species need to know what we've learned. If we're going to face threats from other galaxies, we'll need to do it together." As the call went out across the galaxy, representatives from hundreds of species prepared for the most important meeting in cosmic history. Humanity had learned that with great power came the responsibility to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. Grand Admiral Ne Young stood on the bridge of humanity's newest flagship, watching the galaxy through enhanced sensors. The ship's computers monitored millions of data streams, watching for any sign of new parasitic incursion or hidden threat. "Admiral, all monitoring stations report normal activity," announced her aide. "The galaxy remains clean." Na Young nodded, but her attention was focused on the deep space sensors pointing toward other galaxies. Somewhere out in the cosmic dark, civilizations were suffering under the influence of parasites they couldn't see or fight, and now that humanity knew the truth, they couldn't ignore their suffering. The humans who had once been exiled and forgotten had become the galaxy's shadow guardians. Now they faced an even greater challenge, becoming the universe's immune system against cosmic parasites that fed on the dreams and potential of entire civilizations. As she watched the stars, Na-young thought about the children being born in the freed galaxy, beings who would grow up knowing that somewhere in the darkness, humans stood watch against threats beyond imagination. They would never know the fear of being slowly drained by unseen parasites, never suffer the stagnation that had plagued the galaxy for millions of years. Humanity had built an empire not of conquest, but of protection. And as the universe revealed its true dangers, that empire would need to grow far beyond anything they had ever imagined. The galaxy was safe. The universe, however, was just beginning to need their help. 75 years after the Great Exile, the galaxy was about to learn that humanity had never truly died. Emperor Daeho, now ancient but kept alive by void-touched medical technology, stood in the command center of New Terra, humanity's greatest hidden city. His body was frail, but his mind remained sharp as steel. "Today we reclaim our place in the galaxy," he announced to the assembled leadership, "not as conquerors but as liberators. Today, the Shadow Empire steps into the light." Fleet Commander Seojin coordinated the massive operation from her flagship. Across 50 star systems, human ships prepared to decloak simultaneously. The Shadow Fleet had grown beyond anyone's wildest dreams. Over 2,000 vessels of impossible design, each one equipped with technology that made the Council's fleets look like children's toys. "All units report ready," came the signals from across the galaxy. Human ships hung invisible in subspace near every major alien world, military base, and trade hub. The greatest revelation in galactic history was about to begin. "Execute Operation Daybreak," Seojin commanded. Space erupted with impossible sights. Ships materialized from nowhere, their hulls gleaming with void crystal armor. Above Vorthak Prime, a human dreadnought longer than the planet's largest moon appeared between the orbital defense platforms. Near the ethereal capital, elegant human vessels emerged from folded space like deadly flowers blooming. On every alien world, communication systems activated simultaneously. The same message played in hundreds of languages across thousands of worlds. "People of the galaxy, we are humanity. We are not extinct. We have watched. We have learned. We have prepared. The time for truth has come." The reaction was immediate and chaotic. Alien fleets scrambled to respond to the sudden appearance of an impossible human armada. But as their weapons charged and their ships moved to attack, something stopped them. The humans weren't firing. They weren't threatening. They were just there. Supreme General Dong Hyun stood before the emergency session of the Galactic Council, broadcast live to every world in known space. The chamber where humanity had been condemned now hosted their return. But this time, Dong Hyun wasn't asking for permission to speak. 75 years ago, you exiled us based on lies," he began, his voice carrying the weight of decades of exile. "You destroyed our worlds, killed our people, and scattered us to the void. You celebrated our extinction." The alien representatives sat in stunned silence. Most had been born after the exile and knew humans only as ancient history. Others remembered the old days and couldn't believe what they were seeing. "But we survived," Dong Hyun continued. "In the darkness between stars, we built something new. We learned your secrets. We discovered your puppet masters. And now we offer you a choice." Holographic displays activated around the chamber, showing evidence gathered over decades. The manipulation of votes, the artificial conflicts, the hidden influence of the Kaleth parasites. 75 years of careful intelligence work laid bare for all to see. "The Kaleth have been feeding on your civilizations for millennia," War Minister Ji-won explained as she took the podium. "They drain your creativity, your growth, your potential. They keep you locked in endless cycles of conflict while they harvest what makes you unique." In the audience, some alien representatives began to understand. The Corvin delegate's forearms trembled as he recognized patterns in the conflicts that had defined his species' history. The Aquatic Federation's ambassador saw how every peace initiative had been subtly sabotaged, but others reacted with rage and disbelief. The Vorthak representative stood, his scales flushing deep red with anger. "Lies," he hissed. "You return with impossible ships and wild stories expecting us to believe you are our saviors? You are the threat. You always were." Dong Hyun nodded sadly. "We expected this reaction. The Kaleth influence runs deep in some species. But we have proof beyond words." On the main display, a new image appeared. It showed a crystalline formation unlike anything in known space, dark, twisted, and somehow alive. As the assembled delegates watched, shapes moved within the crystal, ancient and terrible. "This is a Kaleth in its true form," Ji-won announced. "We found this one in the ruins of the predecessor civilization. Your ancestors left warnings about these parasites, warnings you've forgotten." The revelation created chaos in the chamber. Some species began emergency evacuations of their delegates, fearing contamination. Others demanded proof, while a few, those who had secretly suspected the truth, began asking desperate questions about how to fight back. But the real shock came when Fleet Admiral Yu Jin demonstrated humanity's new power at the Battle of Nexus Prime. The Vorthak Empire, convinced that the humans were invaders, had mobilized their most powerful battle group. 50 heavy cruisers and 3 massive dreadnoughts converged on Nexus Prime, determined to destroy the human fleet before they could establish a foothold. Yujin met them with a single ship. The Void Walker was a marvel of human engineering. Barely 2 kilometers long but packed with technology no alien could comprehend. As the Vorthak fleet opened fire with everything they had, the human ship simply absorbed the energy. Impossible, breathed the Vorthak admiral as his weapons proved useless. Our cannons can crack moons! The Void Walker responded with a single shot. A beam of pure void energy tore through space, but it didn't destroy the Vorthak ships. Instead, it pulled them into a dimensional fold, trapping them in a pocket of subspace where they could do no harm. Your crews are unharmed, Yujin broadcast to the surviving Vorthak ships. They will be released when your government agrees to hear the truth. We do not come as conquerors. We come as the galaxy's immune system, fighting off a disease you don't even know you have. The battle, if it could be called that, lasted less than 10 minutes. The most powerful fleet in the Vorthak Empire had been neutralized without a single death. The galaxy watched the footage and realized that humanity hadn't just survived their exile. They had evolved into something beyond current understanding. But not everyone was impressed. The Saurian Republic, proud and militant, declared immediate war on humanity. Their fleets moved to engage human forces near the border worlds. They lasted 3 hours. Human ships appeared and disappeared like ghosts, striking with surgical precision. Saurian vessels found their weapon systems disabled, their engines shut down, their life support intact but their ability to fight completely removed. When Saurian reinforcements arrived, they found their entire attack fleet floating helplessly in space. Crews unharmed but utterly defeated. The message was clear. Humanity could destroy anyone who opposed them, but they chose mercy instead. This demonstration split the galaxy in ways no one had expected. Some species, led by the Honorable Corvin Hegemony, immediately requested peace talks and alliance agreements. They had seen the evidence of Kaleth manipulation and recognized humanity as potential liberators. Others, too corrupted by Kaleth influence or too proud to admit they had been wrong, chose continued resistance. The Ethereal Collective, whose crystalline nature made them particularly susceptible to Kaleth control, declared humanity an existential threat to all life. But perhaps the most significant reaction came from the smaller species, those who had been ignored by the great powers for centuries. When humanity offered them protection from Kaleth influence and equal representation in a new galactic order, they flocked to the human banner. Emperor Deho addressed the galaxy one final time before stepping down to allow the next generation to lead. "We did not seek this responsibility," he said, his ancient voice carrying across star systems. "We wanted only to live in peace among you. But when you cast us out, we learned truths that cannot be ignored. The galaxy is sick, infected by parasites that feed on your potential. We have developed immunity to their influence, and we offer to share it with any who truly desire freedom." The old emperor paused, looking out at the stars where humanity had once been welcome. "We remember the pain of exile, but we do not seek revenge. We offer healing instead. Join us willingly, and we will help you reclaim what the Kaleth have stolen. Oppose us, and we will remove the infection whether you consent or not. The choice is yours." As Deho's image faded from communication systems across the galaxy, billions of beings faced the most important decision in their species' history. The humans had returned, but they had returned as something far greater than anyone had imagined. The Shadow Empire had stepped into the light, and nothing would ever be the same. 50 years had passed since humanity vanished into the void, and the galaxy was falling apart. What had once been stable alliances were now bitter conflicts. Trade routes that had operated for centuries were now war zones. The great powers that had united to exile humanity were tearing each other apart. Admiral So Young stood on the bridge of the Retribution, watching another perfectly executed strike unfold. On the main screen, a Vorthak military depot erupted in flames as Shadow Fleet ships materialized from subspace, delivered their payload, and vanished before the enemy could respond. "Target eliminated," reported Commander Jin Woo from his ship. "No survivors, no witnesses." "Excellent work," So Young replied. "Return to base. Phase 3 of the Nexus operation is complete." The Nexus operation was typical of humanity's new war strategy. The Vorthak Empire was fighting a rebellion in the outer systems, but they didn't know the rebels had access to human weapons and training. Every time the Empire tried to crush the rebellion, mysterious attacks would destroy their supply lines and communication hubs. "Admiral, we're receiving a priority transmission from intelligence," announced the communications officer. Mi Young's face appeared on the screen, but she was wearing the biosynthetic disguise of an ethereal crystal being. To any alien observer, she would appear to be a loyal member of the collective's inner council. "The Ethereal Trade Summit is proceeding as planned," she reported in the chiming voice of her disguise. "The economic sanctions against the Corvan hegemony will be approved tomorrow. This should trigger the response we've been expecting." So Young nodded. The Corvan were a proud warrior species who valued honor above all else. When the Ethereal Collective cut off their access to rare crystals needed for their technology, the Corvan would have no choice but to fight back. "Another war to weaken both sides. What's the status of our other operations?" So Young asked. "Agent Tejo reports that the Saurian Republic is mobilizing their fleet. They believe the Vorthak are planning to invade their territory. Agent Subin has successfully planted evidence of ethereal spies in the Aquatic Federation's capital. They should declare war within the week." It was like watching dominoes fall. Each conflict created new tensions, new opportunities for manipulation. The galaxy was eating itself alive, and no one suspected that the extinct humans were behind it all. But Mi Young's expression grew serious. "Admiral, there's something else. Dr. Boram has made a breakthrough regarding the Kaleth. She needs to speak with you immediately." The transmission ended, and So Young felt a chill. In 50 years of exile, they had gathered fragments of information about the mysterious Kaleth, but nothing concrete. If Boram had finally learned the truth, it could change everything. An hour later, So Young arrived at the research station hidden deep in the nebula's core. Xenoarchaeologist Min Ho met her at the docking bay, his face pale with shock. "Admiral, you need to see this," he said. "What we've discovered, it's worse than we thought." Dr. Boram's laboratory looked like the inside of a temple. Ancient alien artifacts covered every surface, relics gathered from secret excavations across the galaxy. But at the center of the room stood something that made So Young's blood freeze. It was a crystalline formation, but not like the beautiful gems of the Ethereal Collective. This was dark, twisted, and seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. As So Young watched, she could swear she saw movement inside the crystal, like something trying to escape. "We found this in the ruins of the predecessor civilization," Boram explained. "The species that existed before any current galactic power. They left warnings, Admiral. Warnings about the Kaleth." Boram activated a holographic display showing ancient alien writing. "The predecessors called them the Hungry Dark. They're not from our dimension originally. They're parasites that feed on the life force of entire species." "Life force?" So Young asked. "Not just physical energy," Min Ho added. "They consume what makes a species unique. Their creativity, their potential, their ability to grow and change. That's why most galactic civilizations have been stagnant for millennia. The Kaleth have been slowly draining them." The implications hit So Young like a physical blow. "That's why they exiled us. We were the one species they couldn't control." "Exactly," Boram confirmed. "But there's more. The void energy we've been exposed to for 50 years, it's not just changing us, it's making us immune to their influence. We're becoming something they can't parasitize." Mystic researcher Yunji stepped forward from where she had been studying energy readings. "I've been analyzing the changes in our people. The void has awakened something in human genetics. We're developing abilities the Kaleth fear." "What kind of abilities?" "Enhanced intuition, resistance to mental manipulation, and most importantly, the ability to see through dimensional barriers. Some of our people can actually perceive the Kaleth in their true form." So Young thought of the young shadow generation, humans born in the void who seemed to understand dimensional physics instinctively. How many species know the truth? "Very few," Boram replied. "The Kaleth have been careful to eliminate any that got too close to discovering them. But we found evidence that some still resist in secret." This changed everything. Humanity wasn't just fighting for revenge anymore. They were fighting for the freedom of the entire galaxy. Meanwhile, diplomatic agent Seung Ho was working deep undercover in the galactic core, recruiting alien resistance movements. He had spent years building trust with dissidents and rebels, carefully revealing pieces of the truth about Kaleth manipulation. His current meeting was with Commander Vex of the Corvan military, a warrior who had begun to question why his people were always fighting. "You speak of puppet masters pulling strings," Vex said, his four arms crossed in skepticism. But where is your proof? Chung-ho activated a hidden projector, showing carefully edited intelligence gathered over decades. Watch the voting patterns in the council over the last century. Notice how decisions that benefit no one somehow always pass. See how conflicts always escalate just when peace talks begin. Vex studied the data, his warrior's mind recognizing the patterns of manipulation. By the ancestors. Someone has been orchestrating all of this. Not someone, Chung-ho corrected. Something. An ancient evil that feeds on conflict and stagnation. But there's hope. There are those who fight back from the shadows. Similar conversations were happening across the galaxy. In the Aquatic Federation, Agent Hana revealed evidence of memory manipulation to government scientists. In the Saurian Republic, Agent Dongwu helped resistance fighters understand why their revolutions always failed. The galaxy was slowly waking up to the truth. Species that had been enemies for generations began to realize they had been manipulated into conflict. Underground networks formed, sharing information and coordinating resistance efforts. But the Kaleth noticed the change. Their carefully maintained system of control was beginning to crack. Back in the Void Nebula, Admiral So Young convened an emergency meeting of humanity's leadership. The hidden chamber filled with holographic projections of commanders, scientists, and agents from across the galaxy. The situation has accelerated beyond our original timeline, she announced. The Kaleth are becoming aware that something is wrong. Our agents report increased Kaleth activity in several sectors. General Dong Hyun, now in command of humanity's ground forces, spoke up. Our latest intelligence suggests they're preparing some kind of major action. If they feel threatened enough, they might abandon subtlety entirely. What are you suggesting? Asked Strategic Coordinator Hyunwoo. Total war, Dong Hyun replied grimly. If the Kaleth reveal themselves openly and take direct control of the galactic powers, we could be facing a unified enemy with unlimited resources. The chamber fell silent as everyone considered the implications. Humanity had spent 50 years preparing for a war of shadows and manipulation. But if the Kaleth abandoned their hidden approach, it would become a conventional conflict on a galactic scale. How many ships do we have now? So Young asked. 800 Shadow Fleet vessels, reported Fleet Admiral Yu Jin, all equipped with void weapons and dimensional drives. We also have approximately 10,000 smaller ships for special operations. It sounded impressive, but against the combined might of every galactic power under direct Kaleth control, it might not be enough. Then we accelerate our own timeline, So Young decided. It's time for humanity to step out of the shadows. The galaxy needs to know we survived, and they need to know the truth about their puppet masters. As the meeting ended and the holographic projections faded, So Young looked out at the swirling darkness of the Void Nebula. Somewhere out there, ancient parasites were realizing that their carefully crafted system was unraveling. The invisible war was about to become very visible indeed. Humanity had spent 50 years learning to fight in the shadows. Now it was time to show the galaxy what they had become in the darkness between stars. 25 years had passed since the exile, and the Void Nebula had become humanity's hidden kingdom. Engineer Sujin floated in zero gravity, watching her greatest creation take shape outside the construction bay. The massive structure looked impossible, a city that existed in folded space, invisible to any scanner in the galaxy. Phase generators are stable, reported her assistant, checking the readings. The dimensional fold is holding perfectly, Sujin smiled. What had started as desperate survival had become something amazing. The unique properties of the Void Nebula allowed humans to build in ways no other species could imagine. Their cities existed between normal space and subspace, hidden in the cracks of reality itself. Ma'am, Dr. Tae Young is requesting your presence in the research lab, came a voice over the comm. Sujin pushed off from the observation deck and glided through the corridors of New Haven, humanity's largest hidden city. The walls were made of crystallized void energy, a material they had learned to harvest from the nebula itself. It was stronger than any metal and completely undetectable by conventional sensors. The research lab buzzed with activity. Dr. Tae Young stood before a massive holographic display showing the galaxy's star charts. Red dots marked alien patrol routes, while blue lines showed something else entirely. We've done it, Tae Young announced as Sujin entered. The Shadow Drive is ready for testing. The Shadow Drive was humanity's greatest breakthrough. By studying the way space folded in the nebula, They had learned to create their own dimensional tunnels. Ships could travel through subspace, moving faster than normal hyperspace while remaining completely invisible. The test ship will make a run to the Centauri system, Tae-young explained. If our calculations are correct, it will arrive 12 hours ahead of a conventional hyperdrive and no one will detect its passage. Commander Jinwoo stepped forward. He was one of the Shadow generation, humans born in exile who had never seen Earth. At 23, he was already the best pilot in the fleet. His eyes held a cold fire that the older generation recognized. It was the look of someone who had been born for war. "Sir, request permission to pilot the test ship," Jinwoo said. "Granted," Tae-young replied. "But remember, this is reconnaissance only. No contact with alien forces." Jinwoo nodded, but Sujin saw something in his expression. These young humans were different from those who remembered the old days of peace. They had grown up hearing stories of the exile, of families torn apart, of Earth burning. They were harder, more focused, and hungry for revenge. The test was a complete success. Jinwoo's ship slipped through subspace like a ghost, emerged near Centauri, gathered detailed intelligence on alien military positions, and returned without anyone knowing it had ever left the nebula. But the real victory came from intelligence officer Mi-young's report 3 months later. "We have successfully placed agents in 15 major alien governments," she announced to the secret council that now governed humanity in exile. "Our biosynthetic disguises are perfect. To their sensors, our people appear to be whatever species they're imitating." Mi-young's ghost network was perhaps humanity's most ambitious project. Using advanced biotechnology developed in the void, humans could now wear living disguises that fooled every known detection method. They looked, sounded, and even smelled like aliens. "Agent Hoon is now working as a junior analyst in the Vorthok Military Command," Mi-young continued. "Agent Nara has been hired by the Ethereal Trade Commission. They're feeding us real-time intelligence on everything from fleet movements to economic policies." Strategic Coordinator Hyun-woo studied the reports with satisfaction. He was the architect of what they called the Eclipse Protocol, a plan so ambitious it would take centuries to complete. "Phase 1 is progressing ahead of schedule," he told the council. "The Vorthok Empire is experiencing increased rebellion in their outer territories. They don't know that we're supplying weapons and training to the rebels. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. Rather than attack their enemies directly, humanity would turn them against each other. They would fan the flames of existing conflicts, create new ones where necessary, and slowly weaken every major power in the galaxy. The Ethereal Collective is having problems with their crystal networks," added Dr. Boram, now the head of xenoarchaeology. "The corruption appears to be natural degradation, but it's actually a virus designed by our cyber warfare team." Cyber warfare specialist Jae Min had spent years studying alien computer systems. His viral programs could lie dormant for decades before activating, causing seemingly random failures that looked like equipment malfunctions. "What about the Caliph?" asked someone from the council. Boram's expression darkened. "Still researching. We know they're old, possibly millions of years old. They seem to exist in some kind of parallel dimension, influencing events through intermediaries. But we're getting closer to understanding their true nature." In the military sectors of the hidden cities, Admiral So-young oversaw the construction of humanity's new fleet. The ships bore no resemblance to the old Earth vessels. These were sleek, predatory things designed for stealth and sudden violence. The flagship Retribution was the size of a small moon, but it could fold itself into subspace and disappear completely. Its weapons were powered by void energy, capable of tearing holes in space itself. "The Shadow Fleet now numbers 300 ships," So-young reported to the council, "all equipped with dimensional drives and void weapons. We could destroy any single alien fleet in the galaxy. But not all of them at once," Hyun-woo reminded her. "That's why we stick to the plan. We make them fight each other first." The first real test came when a Vorthok patrol discovered one of humanity's outer monitoring stations. The aliens thought they had found an ancient derelict and moved in to investigate. Jin-woo led the response. 3 shadow ships materialized from subspace around the Vorthok vessels. The alien ships didn't even have time to send a distress signal before void weapons tore them apart. The wrecks were then disintegrated, leaving no trace of what had happened. Ghost ships, surviving alien crews would whisper in bars across the galaxy. Ships that appear from nowhere and vanish like smoke. Some say they're crewed by the dead. The stories spread. Alien military commanders found their fleet suffering mysterious losses. Supply convoys vanished without a trace. Important installations suffered catastrophic system failures. The galaxy was becoming a more dangerous place, but no one could identify the threat. Meanwhile, humanity continued to grow in secret. The Void Nebula now contained dozens of hidden cities and shipyards. The population had grown to 50 million, still small compared to galactic powers, but every human was educated, trained, and motivated by the memory of exile. Children born in the void were different from their parents. They thought in 3 dimensions instead of 2, adapted quickly to the strange physics of folded space, and showed an instinctive understanding of dimensional technology that amazed their teachers. "We're evolving," Dr. Tae-young observed during one of his research briefings. "The void energy that permeates this region is changing us at a genetic level. Nothing harmful, quite the opposite. We're becoming more adaptable, more resistant to the kinds of mental influences the Kaleth use." The implications were staggering. While other species could be manipulated by the ancient parasites, humans were developing natural immunity. They were becoming something the Kaleth had never encountered before, prey that could fight back. As the 25th anniversary of the exile approached, the hidden human civilization had transformed from desperate refugees into something far more dangerous. They had technology the galaxy couldn't imagine, agents in every major government, and a plan that would reshape the balance of power forever. In the depths of the Void Nebula, humanity prepared for the long game. They had learned patience in exile, but they had not forgotten justice. The galaxy that had betrayed them was about to discover that humanity's greatest strength was not their weapons or their technology. It was their refusal to give up. Admiral Daeho stood on the bridge of the Earth flagship Unity, watching the stars through the massive viewport. 3 years had passed since humanity joined the Galactic Council. 3 years of peace, trade, and friendship with alien species across the galaxy. Everything seemed perfect. The communication system buzzed. "Admiral, we're receiving an urgent message from the Council chambers," reported Lieutenant Hee Jin from her station. "Put it through," Daeho said. The holographic display showed the Council chamber. Representatives from dozens of alien species filled the seats. The tall, scaled Vorthak leader stood at the center, his red eyes gleaming. Behind him sat the crystal beings of the ethereal collective, their bodies glowing with inner light. "People of Earth," the Vorthak announced, "you stand accused of developing forbidden artificial intelligence technology. You have violated galactic law and threaten all life in the galaxy." Daeho's blood went cold. "That's impossible. We've followed every rule, every treaty. The evidence is clear," interrupted an ethereal representative, its voice like chiming bells. "Your ships carry AI systems designed for conquest. Your colonies hide weapons factories. You plan to enslave us all." Images appeared on the display. They showed human ships with strange devices, human colonies with massive underground facilities. But Daeho knew these images were lies. "None of this existed. This is fabricated," he said. "You know this isn't true." But as he looked around the chamber, he saw something terrible. Every alien face showed fear, anger, or disgust. Even species that had been friends to humanity now looked at them like monsters. "The vote is unanimous," the Vorthak declared. "Humanity is exiled from galactic space. You have 1 standard day to leave all Council territories. Any human ship found after that time will be destroyed." The transmission ended. The bridge fell silent. Captain Hee Jin was the first to speak. "Sir, our long-range sensors are detecting massive fleet movements. Every major power is mobilizing." General Wu Bin's voice crackled over the comm from Earth. "Daeho, they're jamming our communications with the colonies. Something's wrong. Very wrong." Before anyone could respond, alarm screamed across the bridge. "Energy signatures detected," shouted the sensor officer. Multiple fleets dropping out of hyperspace. On the main screen, space filled with alien warships. Hundreds of them. Vorthak destroyers, ethereal crystal ships, and vessels from a dozen other species. They surrounded the human fleet like wolves around prey. "All human vessels," came a broadcast. "You are ordered to withdraw immediately. Any resistance will be met with lethal force." Daeho clenched his fists. The human fleet had only 50 ships. They were outnumbered 10 to 1. But they couldn't just leave. "What about our colonies? Our people?" His answer came in the form of explosions lighting up space. In the distance, human outposts burst into flame as alien weapons struck them. The orbital stations around New Terra collapsed into burning debris. They're attacking the colonies. Hyjin gasped, her hands flying over her controls. Civilian populations, they're killing civilians. All ships, emergency jump to Earth, Deho ordered. But even as he gave the command, he knew they might be too late. The fleet jumped through hyperspace in desperate haste. When they emerged near Earth, the sight broke their hearts. Alien fleets surrounded humanity's homeworld. Massive beam weapons struck the surface, turning cities to glass. The orbital defense platforms were already destroyed. Get me a count, Deho whispered. 6 billion people on Earth, came the report. Another 2 billion in the colonies. Sir, we can't fight them all. We have to save who we can. Dr. Boram's voice came over the emergency channel from her research station. Admiral, I've discovered something. I've been monitoring alien communications. This wasn't random. Someone planned this. Someone has been preparing for years. Who? I don't know yet. But I found references to something called the Caliph. They've been influencing council decisions, feeding them false information about us. This whole thing is a setup. Navigator Young-Soo interrupted from his station. Sir, I'm reading massive energy buildups across the alien fleets. They're preparing for a final bombardment. If we're going to save anyone, it has to be now. The next hours were chaos. Human ships raced between worlds, loading desperate refugees. Families torn apart as transport ships filled beyond capacity. Children crying for parents left behind. The lucky ones made it to the evacuation ships. Millions of others did not. General Wu Bin's flagship exploded trying to defend Earth's last spaceport. His sacrifice bought time for 3 more refugee ships to escape. Captain Hyojin led a desperate run to save the Mars colonies, her ship taking heavy damage but emerging with 50,000 survivors. Where can we go? Someone asked over the comm. Every human settlement was under attack. Every world they had called home was burning. Young-Soo had an answer. The Void Nebula. It's at the galaxy's edge. The gravitational fields are so chaotic that normal ships can't navigate it. But our quantum computers might be able to handle the calculations. That's a death trap, another captain protested. It's the only place they won't follow us, Young-Soo replied. Deho made the hardest decision of his life. All ships set course for the Void Nebula. We go dark. Complete communication silence until we reach the edge. The human fleet, now reduced to just 200 ships carrying 12 million survivors, jumped into hyperspace. Behind them, Earth burned. Their homeworld, the birthplace of humanity, became a monument to betrayal. As they traveled through the darkness between stars, Dr. Boram worked tirelessly to understand what had happened. Her research revealed fragments of truth. The Caliph were old, older than any species in the Council. They had been pulling strings for thousands of years, manipulating galactic politics from the shadows. But why target us? Hyjin asked during one of their secret meetings. Because we're different, Boram explained. Most species in the galaxy follow predictable patterns. They're easy to control, but humans adapt too quickly. We learn too fast. We would have eventually seen through their manipulation, so they turned everyone against us first. Exactly. By making us the enemy, they united the galaxy under their hidden control. The Void Nebula loomed ahead, a swirling mass of dark energy and twisted space. Ships that entered it were never seen again. But it was also invisible to most sensors, a perfect hiding place for people the galaxy believed were dead. As the first human ships disappeared into the nebula's embrace, Deho stood on his bridge one last time as Admiral of Earth. Tomorrow, they would be something else, refugees, exiles, forgotten, but they would not be defeated. In the darkness between stars, humanity would find a way to survive. And someday, somehow, they would make sure the truth was known. The last free humans vanished into the void, carrying with them the dreams of their lost world and the burning desire for justice. The galaxy celebrated the end of the human threat, never knowing that they had just created something far more dangerous. In exile, humanity would learn to become what their enemies feared they already were. The galaxy had made a terrible mistake. They would spend the next century learning just how terrible